This week, we're trading our popcorn for hockey sticks and diving into the world of Kevin Smith. From convenience stores to comic book shops, we're ranking our top 5 favorite Kevin Smith films. Will Clerks claim the top spot, or will Chasing Amy steal the show? Maybe Dogma will have us questioning our choices entirely, or God forbid Tusk makes an appearance. Get ready for our visit to the View Askewniverse, and let's find out which films, which flicks makes the cut. Easy for me to say.
Yeah.
Cut.
Gary. Oh, I've been looking forward to this since the minute we started talking about doing a movie podcast. You and I, we both love Kevin Smith. Get this ball washing out of the way. I love this guy as a filmmaker.
Just pump up and down. There's brushes in there with water, and it'll scrub your ball down pretty good.
From the minute I saw Clerks, I was like, oh my God, this is what I wanted to be this guy. And I graciously, I've been confused, or been people say, you look like Kevin Smith. I will take that as a compliment. I don't think I do, at least not now anymore. My beard's gone white, but I've met Kevin a couple of times, and he is incredibly gracious and completely aware that he is.
Whoa, we got a sneeze happening over here.
The heck, bless somebody.
Bless you, Tara. Okay, thanks. Tara making a brief appearance on the
Hi, Tara.
Flick Flops episode.
So when we decided to do this, just because we're going to do Kevin Smith films later, talk about him, but we were just trying something new where we rank films or characters or something. We're just trying to do something different to change it up a little.
Yeah. Keep it interesting.
And this one came about, and I was like, yes, can't wait. The problem is, because I do truly love just about everything Kevin's done. There's a caveat. There's an asterisk by a couple. This was not as hard as it could have been, but it wasn't easy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, there was a universal, like I looked at the list of his films, and easily 5 popped up relatively quickly. It's what order are the 5? That was the trickier part.
Yeah, there's one of what I think is going to end up being in your top 5 that's not in mine, and I'll explain why I pushed it down. It would be a number 6, but but there's a reason that I pushed it out, and we can discuss. Okay. But yeah, this was. I agree with you. I mean, looking at it, it would be easy to assume at least the top 3. 4 would be super easy to know, you know.
I mean, I believe my text message to you was like, look, we're probably gonna have the same 5, just which order are they going to be in?
Yeah.
So, you're right. There might be one that might be slightly different. I mean, Gary, you remember our and we don't have to go into here, but our run in with Jay and Kevin and Jason
yes.
Jason Lee.
Yeah.
Many years ago, and that's such a fond memory that we inadvertently barged in on.
They were recording the audio commentary for Mallrats, I think, when we were there. Yeah. So
we kept pounding on the door because we saw people in there, but they wouldn't let us in. And finally, they're like, "What?" And we said, "Look, we drove up here from Cincinnati, Ohio. We just wanted to see the shop." And they were like, "You can come in if you don't say a word because we're filming right now." And then they were filming the commentary section.
Yeah, which is cool.
I actually remember what they were talking about. Do you remember what they were discussing when they were filming?
I don't know, fan.
Starstruck. They were discussing and saying Kevin writing Jay's dialogue. Like, how do you write that? And he's like, that's how Jay talks. There's nothing to write. I just write down what he says. That's Snoochie Booch's bullshit. That's what he says. I wrote it down. There's no genius behind it. And I was like, oh my God, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life.
But that ain't like us at all slapsticky and shit, run around like a couple of dickheads saying, what's that shit he got us saying?
Oh, Snoochie Boochies.
Snoochie Boochies. Who the fuck talks like that? That is fucking baby talk. It's big world, Jay. We're bound to run into you again. Till then, keep your unit on you.
I'll try. No. Do or do not. There is no try.
Knock that shit off. We got a bus to catch. Shut up, bitch. Man, why do you always have to tell that fucking gay story for?
Man, shut up.
You shut up, you fat fuck.
Yeah, now I kind of recall that. Yeah.
Anyway.
Oops.
So, are we ready, Gary? Do you have drum rolls? One of us is a drummer. You do it.
I don't have drum rolls, but I do have. Let's talk about our number 5. Now, granted, we're going to have different lists, so this could be us sharing what we each picked as our number 5. But let's go with number 5. Who's going first, Andy, you or me?
I can go first if you want.
All right, go for it.
For me, and again, I'm going to say this repeatedly. He's got 14 films out. We kind of limited to films he'd written and directed, which does take one of them out of play. So 13. So for me, he's known for Jay and Silent Bob type characters, but for me, the number 5, and it's a film that I think it's one of his better pieces of work. Not in his View Askewniverse necessarily. It's a film called Red State.
That's exactly what I have as number 5.
This is a great movie.
Yes, I didn't think you'd have it in your top 5, but yes, I agree.
So I bounced around with it, and I was like, you know what? If I was pushed to you can watch 5 movies, pick the 5 you want to watch. This is one I'd want to watch again.
Yeah.
And again, it is. I saw it in the theaters. It's a solid, and it is such a departure from what Kevin Smith does.
Yeah.
But it's a departure in a good way, not like some of his other stuff where he takes a kind of a left turn, and you're like, "Oh, Kevin, you shouldn't smoke so much dope before you write a film and greenlight your own films." This was really well done. It's dark. It's not funny. I mean, I think it's actually listed as a horror film, Gary.
I think so. I have a quick synopsis. A group of teenagers.
Yeah, go.
Group of teenagers falls into the hands of a fanatical religious cult led by a terrifying pastor. In this intense thriller, what begins as a seemingly normal night spirals into a violent standoff involving the ATF testing the limits of faith, morality, and survival. Does not sound like a Kevin Smith film.
No Jay and Silent Bob to be had.
Which is exactly why I put it in my top 5. Yeah. Because on its own, it is a great movie and totally different than the other 4 that I have in my top 5. So, I mean, it's just like, it's one of those movies that I would love to see him do more of that kind of, something in that realm. Tusk, I'm sorry, is not it. But but I appreciate the departure on that one as well. But just not quite, but yeah, I mean, I was actually thinking there's no way Andy's going to have this one in his top 5. And
I love this movie. I love the inspiration behind this movie. Kevin, this is kind of, I believe he was written around the era where the Westboro Baptist Church was making a big stink at people's funerals.
Yeah.
And Kevin was kind of really engrossed, and he was communicating with, I think, the daughter of the preacher, the pastor of that Westboro Baptist, and like just talking with why do you hate so much? Why are you the way you are? And he became fascinated with it. And this is, to me, this shows the genius of Kevin Smith as a filmmaker, because he's known for and he doesn't think he's that good of a filmmaker. When you see him with interviews and you hear him talk, he's like, look, I make a living out of dick and fart jokes.
Yeah.
This proves he's actually more than that. And I think he feels like he's got he's a one-trick pony, so to speak. He's not. And if you see some of his other films, you'll see what we're talking about. But my point is this is a wild departure for Kevin Smith, and it's fantastic. And I would say to somebody, mostly because it's on here, is if you think Kevin Smith is just Clerks and whatnot, see this film.
Yeah.
And you'll come back to me. That cannot be the same filmmaker.
Right.
It is. The dialogue is fantastic. You see an amazing performances. I mean, Stephen Root's in this film. Michael Parks plays the pastor.
Pastor, yeah.
I think Kevin Pollak makes an appearance in this film. John Goodman. There's he gets great performances from actors that are just like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
So anyway,
and it has a nice ending to it that's very what's the word I'm looking for?
Poetic.
It's left up to interpretation.
Yeah.
It's kind of left up to what you think that means.
And it's got Ralph Garman's in. His buddy Ralph Garman is
Oh,
in.
yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But Garmy. And Gary, I think you made a wise choice at number 5. I agree with you and me.
You know what? I agree with you.
What's your number 5, Gary? Oh, wait. So you go number 4.
My number 4, Andy, is one that I have the feeling, if I know you good, like I think I do, I have the feeling you're going to have this higher on the list. Great film, got lots of comedy, has a very interesting message, but I think it's near the ending that kind of does it for me, that makes it lower on the list, and that would be Chasing Amy.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, this is a great film. I'm surprised you have it so low, but it's your list. I mean, it's on the list. So I take that as a.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good movie. I think where it falls apart for me near the ending is the explanation between the two characters on what's going on there. That's
how they're in love with each other.
Yes, and I'm like,
and he's like, no, that is not at all what this is about.
I was like, I don't get that. And that's where it was like, I feel like this is him writing a love letter to his best friend, which is kind of weird. But
yeah,
but that's where it kind of lost me. But I mean, I remember being a huge fan when this came out and really enjoying this movie and seeing it, quite a number of times. But that was the one thing that always stuck with me. So when I was comparing it to the other movies and how I felt,
sure,
that's where I put this one. And I will say, when we break into the top 3 here, that I still have a hard time ranking the top 3 and what exact order I want to use. But I'm going to go ahead and do it how I've written it down. And
yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at. I can't disagree with where you put the film. It's not where my number 4 is, but it to me, this is I think some of his best writing.
Mm-hmm. And there's some really funny scenes in this movie as well.
There's scenes that we've lived with. They've become part of our vernacular. So,
yeah. What about you though, Andy? What do you got for your number 4?
My number 4, let me look at my notes here. Number 4, this was a tough one for me that it fell to 4 because I love this movie so much. But when I started looking at my, again, like your top 3, I was like, which one do I bump out of the top 3?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, and this is hard, this could change tomorrow. I'll use that caveat to give myself a pass. Gary, number 4 coming in hot for me is Mallrats.
Okay.
This movie is, I think, completely underrated by the masses as a Kevin Smith movie because there was so much hype for this movie coming out after the success with Clerks, and everybody's the majority of film society kind of like, Kevin dropped the ball on this one. Kind of, he didn't live up to the wonderkind that he was, and I think they're wrong. He did. This is a fun film.
Yeah,
he captured what it was like to be a mall rat kid, which we kind of were, you know, at that era. I mean, we're all about the same age as Kevin Smith, so. And just outstanding characters in this film for the Kevin Smith universe. There's so many great, funny scenes, lines, and I feel bad putting it as low as 4. But again, when I get to my top 3, which one would you have kicked out?
Yeah.
So
no, I get it. And Mallrats, I mean, I haven't ranked higher than you. I will say it is higher than yours.
Yeah,
but I agree. Great. I mean, I don't even think he likes to claim the movie as much as I think he feels like it was a failure of some sort. But it's funny because I really, really enjoy the movie and it's rewatchable.
And I think for you and me, Gary, because we were kind of the Brody kind of characters, where we were comic book guys and video game guys. We would have ignored our hot girlfriend to talk about comic books with our friends.
Yeah.
And, meeting Stan Lee would have meant more to us than just about anything at that time.
Right. Yeah.
So this just hits close to home. for me, and I'm pretty sure you. And
Mhm.
so, but I'll wait till you get to it. You can bloviate all you want when it comes to your turn on it. I don't want to steal any of your, make you talk about it. But number 4 for me is Mallrats, and that's hard for me to say, but I'll stick to it for this segment.
Well, that's going to make it very interesting to see what your number 3 is. I'll let you take the number 3 spot first.
Number 3, and this is where I kind of went back and forth between Mallrats, but I ultimately put this one at number 3 because I think it's it's some of his best writing. I don't think it's his best, but it's up there. Is Dogma.
Okay.
I think Dogma is really good. It's him doing his take on faith and religion, and Kevin was raised Catholic, and this is kind of I don't want to say it's an attack on the Catholic faith, but it is a commentary on faith. And what I love about the film is, first of all, the cast is just beyond outstanding. George Carlin's in this, Alanis Morissette in this, Chris Rock's. I mean, there's so much in this, Ben and Matt are in this. It's slightly dark in some aspects. It's slightly comedic. And I think for me, one of the biggest selling points of this film is back when it came out in New Jersey, there were people that were protesting this movie.
Yeah.
At the theaters that it was showing, and the news was there.
This is a great story.
With the protesters, and Kevin Smith was out there walking with a protest sign that said "Dogma is dog shit,"
Right.
because he wanted to be part of the protest. And there's this clip of him being interviewed by the news crew about this film, how bad it is. And he was saying, yeah, I agree. This film is a blasphemous piece of crap. And I think they even said something like, have you even seen it? He goes, I don't need to see it. They know it's not good. It's something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but
that's funny.
I love that. Anyway, this is a solid movie. And again, I could move Mallrats here at any given moment, but I enjoyed this movie, and it's still, if push comes to shove, which one would I want to watch first? Probably Dogma before Mallrats.
Yeah, this is where we get into the realm of, this was just a really hard decision between the top 3 for me. And I think they could change at any moment and flip. My last writing down, even though it came first, I have Clerks at number 3.
Okay.
And it is definitely not a knock on it, because at any moment I could have that as number 1.
Yes.
Out of the top 3. It's just that when I think about the ones and how much enjoyment I got out of them, and you'll see kind of how I picked these top 3. It was like you could see I did it in reverse order of his maturity as a writer.
Yeah.
And I felt like while Clerks was great, very minimal budget, all charged on his charge cards, using the shop when he's, when it's closed, and all the different things that he went through just to get that movie made. There's, it's hard to take anything away from that. But it's just one of those where I'm like, that was the setup. That was the thing that got him started. And while I love the movie, I do think the other 2 films that I have above it are a little bit more rewatchable.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
One. So that's why I put it where it is. We can talk a little bit more further on it as we go, but
yeah, I don't disagree with you. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to put Clerks at number 1 on everybody's list, because you go, oh yeah, because it was the one that got him where he is, but that doesn't mean it's his best film. Yeah. And if you dig deep into Kevin's life, Dogma was the first film he actually wrote.
Mm-hmm.
Clerks was the first one he made, because he knew he could do Clerks for not a lot of money. He knew Dogma would require a budget, and he just knew he couldn't get that kind of money.
Yeah.
And Clerks was famously shot for $26,000, I think it was total. Shot on black and white because he couldn't afford color film. It saved money if he went with black and white. That's the only reason they go, what an auteur. No, he couldn't afford it. What a great happy accident it was.
Yep. So that's my numero trace.
So you go to
Let
right.
me take number 2. Andy, number 2 is where
curious.
I placed Mallrats.
Wow. Yeah. Look, I love it. I wish I'd had the sack to do that.
I
It's
again,
great,
I talked
Gary.
about it before. It is a very rewatchable. I think we still, all of us, still quote from that movie. There's so many quotable lines in that
Would
movie.
you like a chocolate pretzel?
And I just think that it's very slapsticky. It's got, physical comedy in it and just goofy lines, but it does bring back that kind of feeling of back when we used to roam the malls and you got all these different places you'd hang out at, and you, like you said, we relate to the character, the comic book collector, the guy that's playing video games and and that.
Ignoring his hot girlfriend because they're trying to finish this Zaxxon game or whatever.
Yeah. So, I just, and again, the conversations in Clerks, we've had those conversations before. The conversations in Mallrats it just seems it's just a little better to me. It's all done just a little better. And I know he's not a big fan of it, but I just think it's a great movie and I really enjoy watching it. It's still to this day. So.
Yeah, completely agree. He takes a lot of self-deprecation on this film, and he should be more proud of this film.
Yeah,
it's a fun movie to watch. I could sit and watch this tonight and chuckle and still smile to myself, knowing that wow, how amazing is this film? How nostalgic is this film?
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I'm having the picker's remorse, so to speak. Like, should I have moved it up some? But Gary, my number 2, if I may be so bold, is the classic, the one that started it all, is Clerks.
Yeah.
I put it at number 2 just because it's so important in his career. Mm-hmm. Obviously, without this film, he's nothing. I remember the first time I saw this film, I didn't even know who Kevin Smith was. I was working at a video store, and I was working with someone who said, "Oh, you should see this movie Clerks. You would love it." And I was like, "Never heard of it." It was on our shelf.
Yeah.
You and I had been talking about trying to be writers to a degree.
Yeah.
We always had that dream. And the guy I was working with, he's like, "You would, besides the fact that you look like this guy, you would love this film because." He's a guy who worked in a video store and wrote a film about working in a video store.
Right.
I thus rented the movie, and the obsession happened that quickly. I was like, "This is who I wanted to be."
Yeah.
This movie, and while it is not his best dialogue, the acting is okay,
questionable in some parts
at best.
Yeah.
It introduces Jay and Silent Bob to the world.
Yeah.
And that has been such a sheer joy to my life, is Jay and Silent Bob. And there's some great moments, and there are some great lines in this movie, that we have quoted since the 90s. And so anyway, it's number 2 for me. I love this movie, and I am immensely thankful that he made this movie, and it led us to the rest of the films.
Absolutely. It's that time, Andy.
Number 1, Gary. I'm sure you can guess what my number 1 is.
I can't do that. Okay.
Number 1, this movie for me, number 1 is the first movie of his I saw in the theater, thanks to a friend of ours, Brian Urban. I saw it, went to the theater down there in Cincinnati on the UC campus, Gary, the Esquire Theater.
Yep.
If you're familiar with it. I went and saw it with Urban. I was blown away by what I'd just seen, and I immediately went back and watched it a second time the same night, and that movie is Chasing Amy. For my money, this is the best thing Kevin Smith has ever written. It's the thing he's ever done. I know the scenes, some of the ending doesn't quite land for you, and I totally get that. I don't know. The only flaw I have in this movie is I want more of it, and there just isn't any more to have.
Yeah.
I love the characters. I loved the stories, the way he wrote this film. I mean, some of the lines are so funny. The whole thing about when Alyssa and Holden are on the swing set talking about.
It's funny because that's the scene that just came to mind when you start talking about the dialogue and that.
He looks at her and says, "Why women?" And she goes, "Why not women?" And he goes, "Because it's not the norm." And she goes, "Have you ever been curious about men?" And he says, "I always wondered what my dad saw in Hee Haw, but other than that, no." I think that is just brilliant writing in the fact that it feels natural. It feels like something we would say to each other, giving each other crap at yours and Kevin's apartment back in the day.
Right.
On a Saturday night when we didn't have girlfriends, we're just busting each other's chops. This is how I felt we would have talked to each other. Minus the, I think you're in love with me. You need to, right, that would have never happened.
Right.
But there's a message in this movie that I think he was way ahead of his time on with this film, and whether you agree or disagree with it, but there was a message in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I admire that he took a stance and made a point to talk about a message that was really back then wasn't a big deal. Now it's commonplace. But anyway,
and wasn't that because of a relative of his, like his brother? Yeah, his brother.
So this movie is about homosexuality. Kevin's brother's gay, and if you don't know, and he kind of just did this as he understood part of this world, and the whole, I guess, the gist of the movie is it's not who you love, it's how you love.
Yeah. And
if you're in a mindset of like, at the end of the day, I guess you just need to be happy, then be happy if that's what makes you happy. You know, right. We're not here to debate. That's not me and Gary's agenda. But I like that he was brave enough to say something at a time when that really wasn't what the messages were. He just was like, I just need to say this. Mm-hmm. And he won a lot of accolades for this film. And but besides all that, there's just so many amazing lines in this movie. The whole diner scene where Bob finally speaks, you know,
right?
And Jay's like, you know, I didn't know that about you. And he's like, bitch, what you don't know about me, you could just about fill the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Did you know I wanted to be a showgirl? I mean, that whole monologue is worth the price of admission.
Yeah.
And then the fact that it's based around comic book artists is even better, because I'm like, oh man, I would have loved to have lived in this world where they get paid to write comic books.
Well, you'd just be a tracer. All right, Andy. So for my number one,
your mother's a tracer.
For my number one, look, I go the one. This again, a top three I struggled with, but I went with the one that to me, much in the way that you're talking about Chasing Amy, I think Dogma does the same thing. It's just in a different genre, and I like the comedy in the mix of a mythology, kind of, in a take on religion, and I just really enjoyed the crossover. I read the script to this before ever seeing the movie.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I read it long before. I think it might have been while he was filming it. I forget, online somehow I got a hold of the script and read it, and I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was going to be as funny as it was. Again, I had struggled with these top three, but I think about how I felt about the movie and the maturity of the filmmaking as it went. And I just felt like, for me, that's one that I'd watch it again. Like all these, really, honestly, I'd watch any of these again.
Yeah.
But it has a lot of rewatchability. It's got great acting in it. You've got the continuation of, the Jay and Silent Bob saga. As well as you've got a couple fallen angels in there, and you've got, all these different, and George Carlin's in it. And so you've got all these different things in there that I just think worked so well, and total goofiness.
You got a poop monster in this thing.
You've got the continuation of the View Askewniverse with the movie or whatever, and all all that different stuff. So I just really enjoyed it. That's where I put it. It could change tomorrow, but for my money, I really liked. I put Dogma as number one.
Well, and think about this, Gary, too. Is people have always said about art should make you uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and both our number ones do that.
Yeah,
Chasing Amy is a little uncomfortable, especially at its time, and then Dogma. I mean, you're talking about religion, man. That's a touchy subject.
Yeah,
and he doesn't pull punches with it. Like I said, he was raised Catholic, and he had kind of takes a couple shots at Catholicism and faith in general. And
yeah. Now let me ask you this:
yes,
would your number 6 have been Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back?
Man,
it did not make it in the top 5 for me because I'm like, at that point,
probably
same with the Clerks and all that, the additional Clerks and all that. Well, although I would rank them lower, but with Jay and Silent, I enjoyed that movie. I still think that's a great rewatchable film, but I look at it as we've seen this in the other movies. You can get as much out of the other movies as you could that.
I'll say this, and this would be a wildly unpopular opinion.
Oh, then definitely say it.
I might have put Tusk at my number 6.
Oh no!
Only because I oddly
you follow the trajectory of the
I did
the whole story and everything.
The beginning of the concept when he was high as fuck, talking about an article from a newspaper in England.
Yeah.
And Scott Mosier and him were talking about it on one of their podcasts to fruition. And it is a disturbingly weird film.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's great, but along the lines of the people that like weird horror films or, the cultness of a film, I'm kind of that. I can't say for sure it'd be Tusk, but I'm one of the few that do like Tusk. It's
one of those forays into body horror.
It's very bizarre.
So,
and I remember Bob Horton and I went and saw this in the theater. We were the only 2 people in the theater. When it was over, we walked out silently. There wasn't like, man, can you believe that? We're both like, and I remember Bobby's words to me was like, man, you can't unsee certain things.
Yes.
And again, getting back to what I said, art's supposed to make you uncomfortable. This film made me uncomfortable. It is insanely bizarre. It is inconceivable as a film. I like that he had the sack to make this film. But as you said about Jay and Silent Bob, The Strikes Back, and all their other movies after all that, those are all just bits, and there's just thank you notes to the fans. Are they rewatchable? Sure. My ex-wife and I would watch. Hey, we had Jay and Silent Bob on a DVD. We just stayed in our DVD player, and it just, it was in our bedroom. I mean, any given night, I'd come upstairs to go to bed, and she's just sitting there watching Jay and Silent, laughing her ass off, just giggling at this movie.
Yeah,
and it's very rewatchable. Maybe because I've seen it too many times that it's like, nah. But I don't know. Yeah. Put us down. I said Tusk number 6. Put your name on it.
I want to hear the stuff in the comments on that one.
Put your name on it. I did. Andy says that. Tusk. Bob Horton, chime in on that one. See if you tell me I'm right or wrong.
Tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know how many movies. Did you say he's got 14? The bottom of the list for me, Yoga Hosers.
Oh,
and
God. Kevin, look, buddy. If by any chance you ever see this, Kevin Smith, I love you, but man, Yoga Hosers was not a good idea.
No. That's when you put the pipe down or whatever it is you're doing.
Just say no to drugs, buddy.
Yes, just absolutely.
Make Tusk 2 before you make Yoga Hosers.
I would even endorse that. Anyway.
I approve this message.
All right, everyone, please let us know what are your top 5. Do you disagree with Andy with Tusk? I don't know. Yeah. Let me know.
Run them down real quick, Gary. My top 5 to 1: Red State, Mallrats, Dogma, Clerks, number 1, Chasing Amy.
And I got Red State, Chasing Amy, Clerks, Mallrats, Dogma.
Same 5 films.
Same 5. Just a
different
little
order.
mixed up.
I figured that's how it would go. But anyway, thank you so much, Gary. This made me so happy to just talk about Kevin Smith. This would be
fun.
almost as much fun as just talking about Butch Walker. Boom, did it.
You squeezed it in there.
Well, that's all your fault, by the way.
Yeah, well, what can you do? All right, everyone. Thanks a lot. Please like, comment, subscribe, and Andy, yes?
What's a Nubian?
How many people want to kick some ass? Amy and Gary are coming to you with a new movie they like to review. Whether they liked it or you will soon see by their rating amounts of poo or TP. They rate things different than other shows. The higher the amount, the more it blows. Flick flops are unfiltered reviews of all of the movies we chose to view. We love some and other we've simply hated. You can find out by how much we rate it.
This has been a Touch of Madness production, brought to you by the creative minds at Tommy Twins Media.